Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Del Norte County Solid Waste Management Board meeting this Tuesday, July 16th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Kara, can you please take the roll?
Yes, can. Commissioner Wright?
Here.
Commissioner Inscore?
Here.
Chair Cowan?
Here. Okay, if you guys could please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we're going to take public comment. Any members of the public may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. After receiving recognition from the chair, please give your name, address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments at this time? Seeing none? Okay. Go on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, the agenda item 1.4, I've handed out a replacement item. This is among our last budget transfers of the year, and so we really do try to wrap up all of the different budget lines that are a little out of balance, and oftentimes this is a fairly large budget transfer because we don't know the exact amount of payment to Hambro WSG until those monthly totals for June are calculated. So we just got those numbers, so this is a revised version. Bottom line is that we're increasing the payment for transfer station operations, and we're balancing that out with residuals that are in other lines. You'll notice we're pulling money from the property line, which was set aside to purchase a property for the Northern Transfer Station. That doesn't actually reduce our overall funds available to do that project. It just takes it out of what was budgeted for that fiscal year.
Great. Okay, so I got items 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4 with the changes that were handed out.
So that's a budget transfer in the amount of $218,886.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the updated amount of $218,886 for the year-end budget transfer.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any public comment on consent agenda items only? Seeing none, could you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Inscore?
Yes.
Chair Cowan?
Yes. Great, moving on to item number 2, the treasurer's reports, item 2.1, 2.2. Do you just want to go right down that?
Yeah, I'll just go
Director's
through there
report.
if you don't mind. So starting with director's report, generally we're continuing on in the work that we do. One thing that didn't get mentioned there, and for anybody who's upset about the recent rate changes, I'll note that both Mr. Herber and I will be volunteering as part of the dunk tank for Relay for Life this Saturday. So if you want to throw a ball and put us in the water, well, that'll be your chance. We'll also have the sheriff and the police chief there. Other things that are on the agenda, including agenda item 3.1, which is a change order with Stillwater Sciences to do the review of the work on the corrective action plan for a non-water release for the Crescent City landfill. It's a review of work that's already done. They came in at what I think is a pretty reasonable price, under a couple grand. So we'll be talking about that later. Kira will be talking about possible changes to the street side containers shortly. And the rest are agendized item. Attached to the director's report, you'll see a summary report of the Eco Hero show, which we sponsored and put through Del Norte County schools. Generally seem to be very well received, and this is some of the more intensive school outreach that we've done since Recology's school outreach, which Chair Cowan participated in years ago. So we're happy for that, and generally felt like it was a pretty successful effort. Moving on to the financial reports, we have essentially 1.2 million in the bank plus another 200,000 for our last month's payment at the transfer station. So that's all looking good. Looking at our accounts receivable report, again, anything that's over 90 days has already been turned over to collection, and you'll see there's very few things that are 61 to 90. But accounts that are 31 to 60 are in risk of being placed on hold. In the claims approved by director, you'll see that, again, as always, our largest payment was to Hamburg WSG for their good services at the Delaware County Transfer Station, with smaller amounts for things like Recology and Elnor's emptying of the transfer station bins. Looking at our financial reports, you'll see that we did give you a handout because we didn't have the monthly totals available for June until just before the meeting. Thanks to Kathy Brewer and Haley Smith for their good work in our accounting department. And then finally, I'll take item 2.5, which again is a handout, and it looks at how our income stream came in through the last fiscal year. And you'll see that our authority service fees from the transfer station were just a little bit under budget, but really close. And then our franchise fees came in at $36,000 ahead of budget. So overall, our income stream exceeded our budget. So generally, that's pretty positive.
Great.
With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ted?
No questions, but a small comment.
Yeah.
I'm a school teacher, I don't know if you're aware of that, and EcoHero, every student that I talked to in my school absolutely loved it.
That's great to hear. That's super.
Yeah, programs at the school, kids get excited.
And did you participate? Did you dance? Did you do the EcoHero dance?
I am not much of a dancer.
Just had to ask, sorry.
Excellent.
Okay, item 3.1 is the change order with Stillwater Sciences, and staff recommend approval.
Okay, so we have a discussion of possible action regarding change order 1 with the Stillwater Sciences for engineering review of the non-water corrective action plan for the Crescent City landfill for an additional $1,978.
Does the amount of money of this change order, is it covered under what we've already allocated from the budget standpoint to
Yes.
cover this?
Yes, sir.
Well, then I would make a motion that we approve the change order 1.
Okay,
Second.
Got a first and a motion and a second. Any public comment on item 3.1? Okay, seeing none, could you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Inscore?
Yes.
Chair Cowan?
Yes. Collection and franchise, item 4.1, discussion and possible action regarding proposed replacement of street-sized trash and recycling containers. Is that you?
So I'd like to thank and call Kira Seymour, our Facilities and Programs Coordinator, to the dais to tell you about, essentially to recap our presentation she made to the Crescent City Planning Commission discussing a possible alternate locator, street-side trash and recycling containers.
Those are the samples that you're handing us of the, they're not our snacks, but these are the samples and of what the new
Too much
proposed
fiber.
containers will be made of.
Correct. So some time ago, the current state of our trash and recycle bins was brought to our attention by Jeremy Herber of Recology. Sorry. I know you do both. And one of the main problems that when first this was brought up to us was that the county receptacles were tipping over and shipping. And that caused more rust to get in and much more expensive maintenance, and they're pretty lightweight, so that's another issue. And I'm sure we've all seen them around, and they're looking a little disheveled. They're definitely hit the end of their ride, I think. So we went, Ted Ward and I went to the county to see about what we could do to solve this problem by creating a base for the county ones. And they explained to us some of the intricacies of trying to do any construction, change anything, and the Coastal Commission. And we thought maybe it's time for a whole new design. So we asked the county, how do you guys feel about having a more robust design? And the county was fine with this. I think that was a great idea. And However, they also said that this was in the city's purview. They started this. They're the ones who contracted these out in the beginning. And so Heidi said, definitely, we will follow along with what the city chooses, whether they decide to make any changes, or if we have to make a base and build a base for the current ones, we'll do that too. So then we went to the city, and in meetings with the city, we talked about the issues, and we talked about and I wonder if I can, yeah. So one of the problems with the design of our current receptacles is that they're lightweight. There's a lot of different panels. They have this filigree. It's very nice, but it's in a coastal environment, it's not as rust resistant as it could be. And so in our environment, with the costly maintenance of panels, there's been so many that it's become to a point where like pretty much an overhaul is needed. And that's what we found when we looked at all of them, the counties and the cities. And so at that point, after going through many designs, many ideas, this is where we ended up as being the option that would hit most of the marks, that would check off most of the boxes for the city, for Recology, for everyone. They're heavy, they won't tip over. Each unit weighs about a ton. There's no base or extra construction is needed. There's one part that needs changing out periodically, and that's the steel door, which even that steel door is heavier duty than what is constructed of our current bins.
So can I ask you a
So
question?
that lasts longer.
So all of this is made of this, except for the blue and the green? Those are the steel doors? Is
That's
that
correct.
And then I see an opening at the top there. Is that just opened, or is there another piece of metal that you push through that can fall off?
We don't
when it's
have
broken?
an opening part. We don't have a hinge part. We just
Okay.
have a straight opening, but they are three-sided, so that's only one opening.
So it's not a wind tunnel.
It's not a wind tunnel, yes, and there's less bird scavenging. And
So, but the opening, okay, the opening, what is the back side with the hole? Is that the back side of it, or no?
That's the opening for the recycling.
yes,
That's where you put the recycling in.
But on this
and on the
other
back
picture,
is completely
right
concrete.
here, okay, see, there's these these are two openings, correct? In the upper left, those are round, those are the openings, right? Are those solid?
This looks like two different options. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's correct. There
Okay.
are two different options. They have the optional circle where it's a little bit harder to get in
Right.
and out of the
Or the
recycling.
completely open.
Or completely open.
Okay, gotcha.
They also have another option that we didn't really opt for, but another option is where there's a steel door on the front and the back, so you can hit it from both sides.
Okay,
But that is,
because the birds are gonna get in that top round opening, I'm just telling you right now. They're beautiful, though.
well, and that's the thing, is they're not perfect.
Yeah, okay.
But boy, did they meet we got the closest that we possibly could with these. And we went through many, many different designs, different ideas, and knocked down for different reasons. And these ones have the longevity. Our current ones, I believe, are 8 years old. And
Yes.
these ones can last up to 3 decades. There's a 10-year graffiti warranty. There's a lot of pluses with this design. And the other thing with this company is that they also have accounts in Brookings and Humboldt. So even though they're around Sacramento area, they come here so the shipping would be also decreased. And so the city was interested in this design, and I went up in front of the planning commission and they all chose a color. And so it's been, they like the design, and they want to go for it. So I'm going to make it short and sweet, but if you have any questions, any more questions about these?
I think they're beautiful. I think the design's great. My only concern, and I think it's just where I live, and I already have these in front of my house, the seagulls are going to get in there.
Birds.
And they make a mess. And even with the ones that are open, if they were pushed open enough where there's stuff hanging out, they made a mess. These are going to be able to get in, and they're going to make a mess. And that's my only concern, is how do we control that somehow? I'm sure that's not, maybe, I don't know other areas if that's as much of an issue, or if it's just going to be a long pebble. I'm not sure.
And that's,
I just know that I clean up a lot of trash out in front of my house, just with people leaving in general, but once the birds start, they just,
that was one of the questions.
Okay.
We are going to be finding out if there's possibility of having a hinge door on the top
or
added
ask-
to that.
Maybe you can ask Brookings or did you say Brookings and Eureka? Who
Mhm.
have them? Maybe you can make a phone call and say, did you have this
How
issue?
are they working?
Right.
Mhm.
Are they getting in there? Because maybe they can't get in there. Maybe their wingspan's too big. I don't know. But that would be my concern. Maybe we can just ask that question.
Absolutely.
What kind of receptacle is on the inside of the panel?
It's it's the basic black liner that I believe is.
So it's just an
Currently
open
used.
top liner, it's not, it doesn't have a constriction on it to, because that would, that,
Well, you know, basically, how they burn through some of these, and we'll have to see kind of what we're looking at, maybe just ordering the set, to kind of get a little idea to take a look at. Jeremy with Recology, I'm the manager there. So with these designs here, my understanding is there's a sloped interior,
Oh.
and then it drops down. So it's not just a wide open deal. So the idea is to have one opening side, because you don't have that wind vector, okay? Two is that a lot of times, if you have the opening on the other side, along the street side, people are walking into the street to deposit it. So we want to kind of eliminate that. We're really pushing for the recycling to have the round circle, for the fact of that would help cut down on contamination.
Yep.
Yeah. There is that.
And we've been asking for, you know, the current cans to have concrete poured underneath them, because when they do fall over and chip, they just don't have the lifespan. And going to the Coastal Commission has not ever been easy. So these are extremely heavy. They are graffiti resistant. One of the high maintenance things that we do see is the panels are being kicked in a lot. People are being able to pry them open. The front of these doors are about 4 times the thickness of steel compared to the other ones. So if you're going to kick them in, you're going to hurt something. We hope. And also the emblem on the side, the city's looking at doing an emblem of, I think it was the Battery Point Lighthouse, is that correct, for an emblem on the side where it shows the recycling? So it'll also have a signature of tying those street side containers into the city, kind of making everything look matched, as you can say. We do like the weight of them. They are heavy, however, placing them is going to be a little bit more labor intensive, but I think once they're there, we're good to go. Just as a reminder, we do service these 4 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sundays, and sometimes even more often if needed. Where we find the bird problems is that a lot of the doors right now, they're becoming a safety issue, because the doors are rusting, they're getting sharp, and we've been removing those doors now because we don't want anybody getting hurt. That's one. And two is that half the time, whether you have a door or not, a lot of people don't get the trash pushed all the way through. Therefore, the birds are just ripping open the sacks that are still hanging out. Right. So I don't know if we're going to really find the perfect solution. And along with those spring-loaded doors comes a high level of maintenance. And when you're mounting those to concrete, that cost, and they do rust. If it's metal, it's going to rust on the coastline. And so that increases, maintenance cost moving forward for these cans.
So I hear you saying that open without that spring door would be better.
I believe so. It's going to be pretty hard for, if a bird's going to jump in there, they're going to have a hard time flapping and trying to get back out through
Right.
through that mechanism that's in there. It's kind of like a mousetrap. If they get in there, then we're going to take them to the dump, more or less. So hopefully, we're not going to have that problem, but again, any solution we're going to come up with is going to have some type of a setback. So, we need to, my goal was to focus on, one, creating something that would last. Two, something that looks continually beautiful. And we do get a lot of graffiti and stickers. This is going to come with a very special coating that makes it very hard for graffiti to stick, or it makes it very easy for us to wipe off with the material. So that helps us kind of maintain looking positive in the community at all times. So I think, I think there's more positives than negatives, and the maintenance on these cans now are, they're off the charts. It's a daily thing, and we still can't keep up with them. So they're rotting out now faster than we can maintain. These do come with a heavy cost. We're probably looking just a little over $200,000 to replace these.
How many cans is that total?
Normally there's 120 individual cans. However, we have approximately 60 sets, but the idea is if you're going to go with a new design, it's probably in our best interest to probably purchase an additional 10. Obviously for city growth, if there's going to be some growth in an area that they would like to have cans available for the community that we currently don't have. We have those available, and plus we'd have a string of associated parts that we would order as well. But there's also going to be a tooling fee, there's transportation, there's a lot of labor in getting these things set, the other ones unbolted and pulled and probably power washed and bolts cut, and there's a lot of work to make this transition, but I think the longevity of them over a period of time would be beneficial. Recology is excited about these cans. We have been in discussions with Mr. Ward on how to pay for these. I think we're willing to go down that road to pick up that tab. However, here's the catch. The catch is that in order for me to pay for these and amortize them over a period of time, I'm asking or requesting an agendized item for next month to open communications about contract extensions. That's where I'd like to go with this. It's the only way I can really pay for this, and that'll fall on our dime. However, we need some time to recoup from that purchase. If we can get 20 or 30 years out of them, like the company says, I think it's a positive move for everybody. But that's
To be
kind of
clear,
what-
we're not talking about a 20 or 30-year extension.
No, we are not. We are talking about just a good, solid purchase for the community. I'm not talking about timelines for extensions at this time. However, I just do ask that we can open the door with communications with Recology and the authority to start communicating one, how we're going to pay for these and how to recover that cost and moving forward. And of course, we love serving the community here, and we'd like to stay. And so I think this would be a great opportunity. I know the city is pushing us to change these right away. However,
Did the city offer to pay for them?
they did not.
They didn't?
They did
Really?
not. Eric Weir did laugh, but he did say that he's going to put in with a good word for me for the director to start those communications.
Great.
Okay,
Any
any
questions?
questions?
No, I think it's great. I
Okay. Thank you.
think we need to move forward on these.
Yeah, they look really good. I didn't mean that to be a negative. It was just the one thing that popped up. I love to hear that it kind of went down and stops. But yeah, no, I like that they're together, because sometimes they get separated and it kind of looks funky.
Well, yeah, the number of the existing cans, especially, as we know, we've talked about this before, the cans along Howe Drive, and with the influx of people who, transients and so forth that we've had this year, we've seen more of those doors. I've seen people, and they're looking for recyclables and so forth. They're prying those doors open, as I know you guys know. So anything that can help mitigate that also beautifies the whole area. If we can get functionality and attractiveness in one package, I think it's fantastic. And I think that, partnerships are very important to all of us, so I think that's a reasonable request, Jeremy.
So do you need us to take a vote on this? This is possible action.
I really
or
appreciate
direction.
the discussion, and I think we'll forward any comments that were made as these discussions move forward, but I think it's kind of got some momentum. The request today was specifically from Mr. Herber that we agendize an item on the next meeting to discuss about the potential and the framework that the board might be considering an extension of their agreement.
Great, okay.
Good deal.
Then we'll move on to item, okay, I'm sorry, I totally did not go there. Public comment on item number 4.1.
I looked at your agenda, Eileen Cooper, I looked at the agenda and noticed this item, so I did a Google search, and I put in decorate trash bins, and I did a search of images and videos, and I saw communities doing the most creative things with upgrading the cans that they have. Richmond, different places. And what they've done is a community art project, really, and that would work with this problem of the cans being lightweight, is that they come in and they resurface. They put a thick grout on all four sides. It makes the can heavy. And then some communities paint them, and some communities, others have done chips, murals on the cans. They actually, and not the kind of murals that we have. It's amazing. They live up to the recycling theme. We're supposed to reuse and recycle. So they've created a whole art project of upgrading their cans. And the decorations are made, in particular the murals, they, instead of actually crafting, little pieces of pottery like we have it all throughout town, they have artists. It's a whole venue. Go and buy all kinds of colored pottery, and they have little chippers, and they make murals out of all recycled pottery. They gather them up from the stores, and they're gorgeous. And the cans have these gorgeous signs on all four sides. Schools do them, artists in the community, and it's a thick paste that they put on, and it makes it smooth, and then they either paint them, all different kinds of things, or the mosaics are especially beautiful. But anyway, I was very impressed with what these other communities have
Thank
done
you.
with living up to the idea of recycling and reuse and beautifying the community.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Reminds me of the anchors down in the harbor. So maybe you can take up that project and you can put a group together, and maybe Recology, once they replace these, would be willing to give you the old ones, and you can start some type of competition, is what they did with the anchors. And the artisans came in and they painted the old anchors, and then they got placed around. So maybe that's a great project for you to do with the old ones. Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Any other public comment on item 4.1? We're going to move on to 4.5, discussion possible action regarding second-tier assessment and maps of potential locations for the northern transfer station.
Okay. This one's mine. So I guess I thought I would throw out, since we haven't really discussed it, I keep talking about this as the Northern Transfer Station, just as kind of a default. But this board may have a vision of what you would like to call the transfer station. So I just thought I would plant that seed in case y'all would prefer to call it the Smith River Transfer Station, or the Yantaka Transfer Station, or the Tolowa Transfer Station, or the Rowdy Creek Transfer Station. These are all possibilities. So I'm just saying, I follow your direction, but right now we're calling it the Northern Transfer Station. But at any time, if the board makes a motion and calls it something else, I will use that term. Okay, and this is of course based on the report from Stillwater Sciences, and Dylan Caldwell, the project manager, is here to answer any questions if I go amiss, he'll correct me. So this is the study area. This is essentially what we wanted them to look at, which is north of Dr. Fine Bridge, south of Clifford Camp Park, east of 101, within the, or generally within the coastal zone, outside of the coastal zone to the extent that's possible. Zone commercial, either C3 or C4, manufacturing or industrial M, or public facility. There's very little public facility, so I don't think that was an option. Total land area between 2 and 15 acres total, with at least 1.5 acres of land that could be graded for a public unloading area, and a potential height difference of at least 8 feet across the property, that the owner was interested in selling, or the property could otherwise be acquired. So the possible properties are in pink here. So you see the little pink here, you see all that pink here. The last meeting we went over all of those, and the board did not remove any from the list. So this is looking at the zoning. You can see that property 26, which is a little ways away from the other properties, is zoned rural residential. These green ones are zoned manufacturing. This orangish is timber production, and this larger property was not considered. So having looked at about 26 different properties, depending upon how you slice them up, essentially the report recommends that we continue to pursue investigating 4 of them. So that's properties 3B, 16, 17, and 26. And there's an additional note I'll add on 17 in just a moment. But that's a summary of the different properties. You can notice that all of these properties are larger than we actually need, generally. And so that's significant in that Green Diamond is willing to sell and willing to split, which is very helpful for us, because of course we don't need 37 acres for the transfer station, we just need 2 or 3. But it's also a significant issue for the First Baptist Community Church, which is a 10.9 acre property, which is significantly larger than we need. So we would also be interested in splitting that, but it would possibly be more complicated working with the Baptist Church. My understanding is Mr. Caldwell has communicated with them, and their real estate broker has said the church board would be interested in seeing an offer from the authority if we were to do the efforts of putting together the split that we were interested in. And they have no idea how much the offer would be or what the split would be, so there would be a lot of work even getting to the point of making an offer, because we would have to slice that up as to what we need. But I will show you a picture of that in just a few. So here are the 4 focus areas. There's parcel number 26. You can see we're looking at this corner of parcel 16, this lower corner of parcel 3B, and parcel 17 here. So you can see in each of these other cases, we're only looking at a portion of each of those properties. So here's parcel 3B. So this is the Tolowa Tribal Office, or one of them. I'm sorry, that's not. Oh, down here. I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting that. So the tribal office is actually pretty close, but there's a significant height difference. So this is quite a bit lower than this building here. But this would be one of the potential properties. Here's the intersection of Rowdy Creek Road and 101. This is a fairly large intersection, as there used to be obviously a lumber mill there. looking at parcel 16, again, we're looking at a portion of it. The most interesting portion of this is this area here. My understanding is that there may have been an old monofill of wood waste debris, bark. So bark somewhere in here of indeterminate boundary. But that's significant in that you don't want to pave or build over bark because it's not a very stable surface and will settle over time. So you really want to know where the limits of that are. And then those bark disposal sites are also regulated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, so they would have some concerns about that as well. But this paved area could be useful, though we probably don't need that whole paved area were we to pursue this site. But we would probably want to pave some additional area or possibly have the trailers parked there. Okay, moving on. Here's parcel 17, which is now on the west side of 101. And that's probably one of the bigger issues about this parcel is that the access off of 101 is of course a concern to everybody because people will be driving trailers and things and they'll have to cross the road, and so we want everybody to be as safe as possible as they access the transfer station. But it is on 101, so we have to look at how people are going to be exiting off that. Part of the possibilities on this property, it's right near the Dollar Tree there, it's on the same exit and it's at the end of that road. So a couple of the issues on this one is we don't need the whole property, which is 17 some acres. With the split that we would be interested in would probably be a property right in the middle of it. So they would probably be interested in if they're going to sell these other properties, how are those other potential buyers going to get access? So there's issues there. Here's parcel 26, which appears to have been a former mobile home park of sorts, trailer park of sorts. Fallen into disuse and disrepair for some time, but consequently we are presuming there's probably some kind of septic system which the other properties do not have. Probably also power and phone access. Part of the concerns of this one is you do have Ritmer Creek here on the edge. And then you have additional, these structures are in an advanced state of degradation and they wouldn't necessarily be useful to the authority, but that doesn't mean that the property owner wouldn't consider them having value and want consideration within the purchase price.
And personally, I would say that would be more of a deterrent and a cost to remove, so.
That's, and certainly that's our position. It's not, they're not particularly useful to us. It would take a lot of restructuring to make portions of some of the buildings useful.
No, you don't want to remove them, and there's a cost there.
Right. So those are the issues on parcel 26. So those are the 4 properties. So bottom line is we think that any of these properties could be made to work, but as the board members may recall, except for Mr. Wright, part of our approach on this, because of our experience with developing the Del Norte County Transfer Station, is to try to identify 3 or 4 preferred properties and to negotiate a right of first refusal, essentially securing the purchase price before we get very far down the permitting road. Because what we found before is that when you start getting down the permitting road, if you haven't already secured the price of the property can go up because you've invested resources in making sure that property would work for you. So we're trying to avoid that particular pitfall. So the action that we're looking for is essentially selecting 3 or 4 of the potential sites, hopefully among the ones that we record. But I guess part of what I want to highlight is that as I discussed last meeting, the main action that the board would be taking today would be that these other sites, all of these other sites, would be falling off the list. We would not be pursuing or investigating those in any regard at all further. So by prioritizing the sites, you're also narrowing down the focus, and we would pursue only those additional sites that were identified by the board. We want to select the 3 or 4 potential sites. We want to get direction to work with legal counsel, Stillwater Sciences, and real estate brokers as needed to negotiate rights of first refusal for each of the selected sites. And we also think it's probably a good idea for the board to direct staff to meet with representatives of the Tolowa Dene Nation to discuss each of the potential sites, inviting their comments on each potential location, particularly thinking about Site 3B, which is just below their tribal office.
Okay. So, is everybody good with just these 4? Is there any other ones on the list that you think we should keep other than the 4 that were discussed?
Personally, I don't think that I would even consider property 26. I think that the dwellings that are there, the potential of some type of septic, the removal of whatever those are, I just think I think I would put our energy into the 2 Green Diamond sites, and the possibility if the price was right with the property that's on the west side, it's property 17 that is owned by the church. But I just don't think that 26 is even worth considering from my perspective. I just think it's got there's too much mitigation that's going to have to be done there. I suppose if it came out at a, and it was, they were going to sell it to us for $1 or something, but that's not going to be the case.
Why?
Well, we don't know. This property 26 did first come to our attention through Dominic Mello, who was identifying properties that haven't turned over in a while.
But, I mean, you're looking at the septic being a deterrent. I'm looking at the septic as being a positive. I mean, you're going to need water and septic on these properties. So was I misunderstanding you? I see the buildings being a deterrent. That would help and mitigate the price, because there is a cost to do that. So, if you approach it that way, which whoever's dealing with it should, these are not a positive to us. But I would think that having water and septic on a property, knowing what it costs to put in, would,
Depending on the
right, depending on the, if it's
because
workable.
I mean, if it's
I
in
was-
any kind of disrepair and hasn't been used for very long, then you end up dealing with water quality issues.
Right, but that's something you're going to check out before, you're going to
No, I
have that
mean,
checked
yeah,
out.
I'm not saying you have
So
to
it could be a
take it
negative, it
off.
could be a positive. I guess I just automatically erred on the side of, oh, that's a positive, you don't have to deal with that, but I see your point.
And just to clarify the discussion, neither the Gasky nor the Klamath transfer stations have water or sewer, and they
Oh.
are serviced with porta potties. That is not our preferred option, because it's a significant expense. It's not how we would like to do it, but the cost of putting in a septic system is not small.
Right,
So,
yeah, so if it's there, it's positive. Okay.
I was gonna say, the property that's on the west side, which said was owned by the church, I just foresee a lot of people not being smart, trying to get their trailer across there while fighting that, during tourist season. I don't know,
No, and he said that. Well, they're coming either way. So, I mean, that one, yeah, if you're coming north, you have to turn, but if you're coming south, it's on the right side, just like you could say the other two.
yeah,
You're coming
I
down,
think
you gotta
it's
cross
more
anyway.
likely though, I mean, where it's located, be more likely somebody be coming up from,
there is
Coming from
certainly a broader intersection where Rowdy Creek meets 101 than where the Dollar Tree is on 101. So that
Is that the only access to that property,
yes.
is off Timber?
Behind the Dollar General, okay. Okay. I personally would say look at all 4, but just because they're there. But if you feel 26 is, I wasn't here for the last conversation. My conversations have just been an agenda review. I think it comes down to price. Because like the mayor says, if we can get 26 for half the price of, 3B, that's a no-brainer.
Chair Count, I'll just note we haven't taken public comment. Public comment might be appropriate at this time, too.
Any public comment at this time on item 5.1?
As long as we're inviting additional voices, I'd like to see if,
Hear from
after
Dylan.
the public comment, if Mr. Caldwell has anything to add. No, you, please.
Eileen Cooper, had my little gizmo shut off from the other item when you started talking, so I'm not sure of everything you said. So I just would, I don't know if you've already said this, but is it the 26th, the one in the red?
Yes.
Yeah, that one is far away from everyone. The main it's off. And so it would result in people using up much more gasoline and fuel if most of your people are in town there to get to it. So I don't think that's a good idea when you have so many others that are close in town.
That's a
And
very good point. And they're traveling on Ocean View, and I don't know how many of those residents would like that.
It is close to the corner property, so once you go up that road,
gotcha.
it's pretty close
Is
to the
that
corner
Serena
there.
Road or Westbrook right there?
It's good.
No, but the road that goes up to it is, so it's, okay.
It's off.
It goes up, gotcha.
There's only one street before it, right? And there's somebody building a house up high, though.
Yeah, I believe that's correct,
Cat
yes.
Lane or something
Yeah,
like that.
You're Serena going up there. yeah.
Serena Road.
Right, goes up.
Ah.
Okay, any other public comment?
Oh, yeah, please.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yeah.
come on up.
I'll just say I agree with the concerns about property 26, and we just included it in the consideration because Dominic had asked, because it's a blight property, and it is somewhat removed from other residences, which I think is maybe beneficial for the project. So we can keep it in consideration just as an alternative, since it probably won't add a whole lot of cost for us just to keep it as, you know, a fourth alternative.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But part of the consideration is that negotiating the right of first refusal will have a cost for each one of them.
Yeah.
So we want to have enough so that we have plenty of options, and we don't want to have so many that we have too many.
Great.
Yeah, there's probably a couple others that are more clearly preferred, and if everything's looking good for those one or two others, then maybe we could drop it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you could just keep us posted and updated as we move along this process, that would be greatly appreciated.
Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And on the positive, because it is kind of a blighted property, a low selling price would not be entirely surprising,
Right.
right?
Possible.
Right.
Well, you got to do a cost analysis of all of that, and if that appears to be a direction to go, and we can provide for the needs of the community, and we can do it in a responsible way with the authorities' funds, then I don't want to just throw it off. It just makes me nervous. So.
You don't need any action from us on this, do you?
If
Other
the
than-
board doesn't take any action, we'll take it as consensus direction that we should continue to pursue these four properties.
Right, and drop the other
Until
ones
some,
off.
and especially considering the comments that we've heard, if there is a major issue, such as the property owner wants full compensation for all of the buildings on property 26, which would, blow the price out of the water, then we're done, perhaps.
Or if we discover that the reason that the trailers are now uninhabited is because there was a cease and desist order on the septic system by water quality.
Exactly those kinds of results of investigation, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Consensus to move forward? We're good?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have
Very
direction?
good work, appreciate it.
Okay, and I assume that's also consensus to arrange meetings with the Taloa Dene Nation?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that's
Any of
really
those
important.
relationships, do them all.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And I'd like to thank Dylan for his work. I think this is a good selection of sites to start with, and I think when we're all done, we'll have a site that we're happy with.
Right.
Good, very good.
Thank you. So item 6, General Solid Waste Authority matters. We've got 6.1, discussion and possible action regarding the selection process of the public commissioner to serve on the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority Board for the term up to 24 months. Do you want to talk about what what's going on with this, Ted?
The board's probably aware, Mr. Knapp has resigned. He was the public commissioner, which was elected by the 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, 2 members of the Board of City Council that serve on this board, and he was elected in April 2016. He has since taken a position that requires that he's not, essentially conflicts with our regular meeting times. So he's not available to make our regular meeting times during discussion at the board. The other board members were not available to change the meeting time, and so he felt it was most appropriate to resign and allow the board to make another public appointment. And so we need to advertise that there is a vacancy, see who's interested, and make those appointments. But in the meantime, we are, because the board is aware by this meeting today, it's sometimes challenging to get a hold of board members, especially during summer months. So I'd very much appreciate if the board could elect a secretary for the purposes of signing claims and other authority documents, so that when other board members are out of town, we can still take care of business.
Great. So we just need to do that right now? Is somebody just go ahead and make a motion that Mayor Blake Inscore be our secretary for purposes of accounting?
Second.
Great, I got a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
Thank
Mayor
you.
is now also a secretary.
All right.
Man of many hats. Thank you for your
And then there's also agendizing for the August meeting, a special meeting in September for the purpose of interviewing applicants for this appointment. Previously, and the board doesn't have to follow this, but previously the board wanted to have a special meeting just for the purpose of the interviews, so that they could have a public discussion with each of the applicants and not be distracted by other board business.
So we have a board meeting on the 20th. Are we still having that? Because I'm not out of town that day, and we talked about changing that.
And that is agendized for discussion,
Okay.
but this would be a different.
This is something totally different.
This is
So we're going
a-
to start with the
20th of what?
the 27th.
Oh,
The-
you said the 20th.
The 20th, I'm out of town, so, but
Oh.
I see he's got that down below. He wants to take up the 27th.
Right, but that's August, and we're talking about an additional meeting in September.
Okay, oh, I'm looking at, it says August 27th here for a
Well-
special meeting.
Oh, yes, that's
Discussion.
correct. That's on the agenda. That's on the agenda. But of course, there needs to be a process for people, us to get the word out and people to apply. And so that's why I'm
Special
suggesting we have a
authority
special meeting in September.
Okay. That's not on here. So, September when? That's all right.
So,
I'm
so
just
you don't
confused
need to
because-
set the meeting, but if you just say we'll have an agendized item for setting a special meeting in September, then I can find the available dates and put out possibilities for the August agenda.
Okay.
So that decision does not need to be made today
So
about
I
when
just
that
need a
would be.
consensus to go ahead for next meeting to have Ted look into dates in September for a special meeting that would work for everybody. Is everybody good with that? Great. Just know that Commissioner Howard and I will be gone the week of the 24th.
Good to know. September 24th?
Yeah, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, somewhere in there. We have a supervisors meeting on the 24th, and then we leave, and we have RCRC the 25th, 26th, 27th. So when you're looking at dates, that's 2 of us that won't be here.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
good to know.
Okay.
Okay, consensus direction on 1 through 3 there? That's what I was
Yeah, so
hearing,
tell
and
me-
Mr. Inscore is the secretary.
Hey, the other thing, just, what's your process, Kira, for putting the, put it in the newspaper for the ad for the public member? Is it-
We'll do newspaper and radio.
Okay, and how long will you run it? Is 2 weeks?
Probably do the adverts on the radio 1 week and do 2 notices in the paper.
Publications
Okay.
and
Yeah.
our legal appointment.
Uh-huh.
Okay, excellent. So we're good on items 1 through...
And of
or
course,
6,
anybody
1
listening
through
at
3.
home, you already have a special interest in the solid waste meeting if you're looking at this online. So you might consider putting your hat in.
That was a nice plug. Very well done. So we don't need any action. Everybody's good. We did the secretary. We've got the special meeting. You got consensus.
Yep, and the last thing on this item is if you look at the application and there's anything you want to modify on the application.
Okay.
I would also add to their basic information about the authority, links to our website, things like that, so that people have some clue as to the body that they're applying for. And I will also make clear that this is not a paid position.
Yeah, that's really important. Okay. So moving on to item 7, we have closed session items. So-
No, we have one more item on 6.2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we did take things out of
We
order here.
did.
So
We went
let's
totally out of
just be
whack.
sure that for the record, we know what's going on. So 6.1, we've appointed a secretary,
Right,
and then we'll move forward with advertising for the public commissioner,
right.
correct?
And
Okay.
then we did 6.3.
6.3,
No, we haven't done 6.3 yet.
I see. Okay, so
See,
this
and that's where I
whole,
was confused, because I was thinking your special meeting, you had this written as wrong.
Sorry, I said the
Okay.
special meeting twice, and
Right.
yeah, sorry
So
about
let's go
that.
into 6.2, discussion and possible action regarding the proposals received to provide assessment, cleanup, vegetation management, and consulting services.
Yes, so we issued a request for proposals. This dovetails with our U.S. Forest Service cleanup grant, and this, we're looking for a contractor to help us do that, plus some other vegetative management and trespass consulting kind of activities. We got 2 proposals, one from DDR, another one from Hambro, and the Smith River Alliance. Bottom line is they were both fine proposals, but I think on the whole, the DDR proposal was a good deal stronger, and so staff recommend contracting with DDR for this project.
Okay, any public comment on item 6.2? Gentlemen, any questions? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we direct staff to work with legal counsel and negotiate a professional services agreement with DDR to complete the scope of work as listed in the RFP.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Kara, could you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Inscore?
Yes.
Chair Cowan?
Yes. Okay, moving on to 6.3, that I was confused about the discussion and possible action regarding setting a special authority meeting for August 27th. So is this because,
This is because you said you would not be available for the August 20th meeting, and I'm very eager to have you present and to have a quorum at the August meeting. So I've already checked in, and we do have the room reserved for both August 20th and 27th. And I will inform Kylie as to which our meeting date has been chosen after the meeting.
okay, with 2 of the, I don't want to say normal, the usual suspects here, does that work for you? And we probably need to reach out to Commissioner Greenow and I'm going to say Commissioner Howard's going to be in town because it's a supervisor's meeting, so it's a pretty good chance he's here. And if we do it right after,
Yeah, I'm good.
you're good?
Yeah, I think,
Well, I'm going to ask you just in case.
What time is it, actually?
4.
So
usually
4 p.m. Love to have you here.
Honestly, I'll put it on calendar. I'll
Just
be
in
here.
case?
I'll be here.
Awesome. That's great, thank you, we appreciate that. Okay, so we'll, do we need to take a vote on that, council? or
It'd
you
be
good with
nice.
Consensus, okay. Doesn't hurt, okay. Can I get a motion to change our normal August 20th meeting to a special authority meeting on the 27th?
so moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any public comment? Okay, seeing none. Kara?
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Inscore?
Yes.
Chair Cowan?
Yes. Okay, now moving on to item 7, closed session items, a conference with labor negotiation, and we'll be back out after that. Okay, thank you. You know, session items only before we go in. Do we have anyone who would like to comment on closed session? Seeing none, we'll move into closed session.